Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Exploring Avatar. For right now, it's just me. A few more minutes, Drew will join us as well. But thank you for everybody who's here. A few shout outs. Aftem Child, thank you for being here. Lord Adam, Star, Juan Gal, thank you all for being here. And yeah, we actually have a bunch of news to get through, a lot of updates, especially on Avatar 3 and even after that. But yeah, how are you all doing? Let's start with that. Brianna Brown, thank you for showing up. Hello to everybody. And yeah, let's just have some fun this evening. Good morning, good evening, wherever you guys are at. But yeah, sorry about being late for a few minutes late, and we'll be waiting a few more minutes for Drew, but he'll join us. But yeah, how are you guys doing? Movies literally at the cusp of crossing 2 billion. Honestly, it was a mark that of course, I always hoped it would achieve, but I didn't know if it was going to cross it. Especially post pandemic. Honestly, no movie has crossed it. Even No Way Home just got right below, and we have officially passed Spider-Man No Way Home to become the sixth highest grossing movie of all time. So within a day or two, I think it was last time I checked 47 million away from being crossed the 2 billion mark. So that one's in the bag. It's just to see how high it gets, maybe up to fourth. It could pass the next two, which I believe are The Force Awakens and I believe Infinity War. So we'll see if that happens. How many weeks left in the theaters? It should have it. It's good to go up until February. It really has no other major competition. I know Megan came out recently, but that's not like a big, huge blockbuster movie. But honestly, for its own right, a 12 million dollar budget, little indie flick, it's doing amazing business. So that's also nearing $100 million. So you know, making 10 times its budget back in just like a couple weeks. So congrats to Megan, honestly. But yeah, no major competition until I believe Ant-Man in February. So we still got some weeks to go. So I believe number 4 spot of all time is definitely in range. But yeah, so glad for you all to be able to join us. Oh, and Drew Manning says happy to finally be here on a live stream. Oh, thanks for showing up, man. And it's good having you. So be part of the convo, chat with everybody in there, and as well, we'll constantly keep reading your guys' messages along the way. So thank you for showing up. Let's see here. It's so satisfying to see all those people talking sadistic pleasure and wanting it to fail, proven wrong. I mean, obviously, it's never good to play like it's okay for people to have hated on it. It's okay. Like if it's not your cup of tea, it's okay. Obviously, the only thing we've ever asked is like, don't wish for something to fail. In return, let's not also wish for any, other properties that maybe we're not fans of. You know, Marvel, Star Wars, whatever it is. I'm a fan of a lot of franchises, honestly, and Avatar just happens to be one of them. So I would never want anything to fail because no matter what movie it is, even something like a $12 million budget, Megan, a lot of, sweat and tears went into making that, blood, sweat, and tears. So no matter what movie it is, I never hope for a movie to fail. It sucks that there were people that were hoping, you know, Avatar would fail or we would fail, so to speak. But you're right. We proved them very, very wrong. So the numbers don't lie. It could be that it's not, the most talked about thing like a Marvel or their Star Wars, things like that. But with more and more movies in the bag, it could enter that conversation. So, but regardless, the numbers are there. I'm just grateful that we can continue to, have these movies done, no matter how long they take. We know we have 3 in next December, not this December, but 2024. 4 we talked about. Avatar 4, maybe a few more years out. I'd say 2026, 2027. But it's okay. They still got to film those and take their time, and to reach the quality of Avatar 2 and even the first one. I mean, that takes a lot of work, a lot of dedication, and I'm sure they'll be worth the wait, like this one was, and like Avatar 3 will be, of course. Uh, a W for the community. Yeah, of course, for sure. A big W for the community, for sure. I mean, it's the biggest, like you said, the biggest validation after 13 years of us knowing that there was a chance that once again they could hopefully strike lightning in a bottle twice. To see that it did, it's insane, and especially post pandemic, these numbers are really incredible for especially the times that we're in. So, True Manning says, "Sorry, not sorry." I think the fire people are going to go to the RDA. I don't know. That'd be very interesting. That the whole villainous thing. We're gonna get into it. I'm gonna go through the entire the newest article that appeared in the new issue of Empire magazine. So we're gonna go through all that, and that's where Jon Landau himself talks about a lot of this. The new fire clan. Other things that we're gonna cover. He confirms or debunks. So we're gonna start going through that. Let's see here. So let's actually begin covering that. So, like I said, on the newest issue of Empire magazine, it's not a huge cover story, but it still takes up. It's a pretty sizable article right here. Just a few details, a few paragraphs from Jon Landau. So it goes, "We're next for Pandora." In a world exclusive, The Way of Water producer Jon Landau tells us what to expect from Avatar 3. The Titanic finale of Avatar: The Way of Water, a nice little thing there, had it all: a tragic death, an unexpected father son rescue, and an obnoxious Australian shouting, "Get wet." But for all the revelations, Tulkun points, wow, this guy just went crazy, if you will, it also provides big clues to the future of the series. And with the film fast approaching 2 billion at the box office at the time of going to press, it's safe to say that fans are invested in that future. Hopefully, The Way of Water came to its own conclusion, as I think each movie will, says producer Jon Landau. But they do set things up because we get more and more invested in these characters. Where does Kiri go? What is Loak up to? What decisions will Jake and Neytiri have to make? All of those things will continue to drive our story. Overhanging the family is the death of the Sully's eldest son, Neteyam. I thought it was classic Jim just to do the unconventional, says Landau about Neteyam's demise. They come together as a family, but they now have to live with the guilt one might feel as a parent or as a sibling. Zoe did such a phenomenal job in that death scene. How long does that loss stay with her as a mother? How do you overcome that? And that right there, the last couple live streams I've mentioned that I think that this, I know there is a little small pocket, bring back Neteyam, and we'll always have things like that. But like we said in the last stream, the fact that there are these stakes that James Cameron kept talking about throughout, leading up to the film, that he doesn't see in other franchises, right away, we should know that any death that happens is going to stick, but it's not just going to be, just forgettable. Like we talked about, this death of Neteyam is going to carry over throughout the movies, and the death of any other character, whether it be a Sully family or maybe an important, a background character, a side character from a different clan, things like that. And that's the best part. The deaths are gonna hurt, of course, especially if you become invested in the characters. But But we talked about, and look, he mentions right here, how Zoe gonna deal with it? How long does that loss stay with her? Honestly, I think as a parent myself, that loss would stay with you forever, and it's gonna affect the rest of her life. The other interesting one, like he says, as a sibling, because I brought up before, you have that shot in the movie, Loak looking down, noticing that Neteyam's blood is on his hands, which also, represents him possibly going forward in the third movie, fourth movie, you know, carrying around that guilt that literally he'll feel probably that Neteyam's death was on his hands, because a lot of what did happen was, because of Loak. So it'll be also a journey for him to, have that make him a better person going forward. And that's going to be interesting to see. What do you guys think so far in just these first couple paragraphs, and especially here about, Neteyam's death still going to be something that carries through? R.I.P. R.I.P. and Neteyam, of course, yeah, for sure. Do you think that the Fire People have dark age culture and technology? I don't know. I was talking about this with Drew, so hopefully he joins us pretty soon. Because I was telling him, I mean, right away when we kind of first heard, they were going towards, the water and all that we were getting in the way of water, it was a little easier to kind of get a sense of what you were maybe gonna get. But I don't know if any of you here in the chat, like right away for me, when you say volcanic region, like I can't really think of a lot of elements that immediately will be like, oh, they're gonna have to do this, or this thing right here will be included for sure. Like for the water, I mean, you understood that a lot of swimming, a lot of underwater was gonna be present. And now knowing that not only, especially initially, I think we all thought they were still going to look like all the forest Navi, with the same tails and everything. But now knowing that even their physiology will adapt, that's going to be very interesting. Like, how will their body, just like the Metkayina and other reef clans, the feet, the tails, the extra, basically like fit on the forearms, things like that. Like, what will be some adaptations body wise that that they'll have for this volcanic region? And then on top of that, like, what's going to be where their home's going to be, all that stuff. It immediately doesn't pop into my mind, to be completely honest with you. Like, what are some elements that are going to be a given? So if any of you here in the chat, like I've seen you guys mention like the skin color, a lot are mentioning like red skin and things like that. Yeah, that's going to be interesting too. Like the skin color itself, will it just be more of like a faded blue just because they reference them as the ash people? So you would think maybe just the more, grayed out, like muted color. Because even the Metkayina was a shade of blue, it was just more adapted to the water. So I'm assuming still the primary color for the Navi in general will be blue. So maybe it'll just be, with so much ash that has fallen over, on their skin over however long they've lived in this environment. Maybe it's just a little more, more toned down, more grayed out. So that's my initial thought. But of course, I've seen, people are just thinking like red, which will be a bold choice. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll be a completely different color, or if we're sticking with the blue, just kind of, changing it a bit, depending on the environment. Brianna Brown says red skin would look kind of weird because the Navi have red blood. True, yeah. Loak talking to him for advice once in a while, I hope. Oh, that'd be interesting. I'd be interesting if we get another good point right there. If we're ever gonna get another, basically like connecting to the tree and seeing that, because we always heard about it in the first movie, and I think only in the comics did we ever really see someone like Sute, and I believe a couple, one or two other characters, maybe like Neytiri, actually like talk to Sylwanen and things of that sort, but we never saw it in the movie. So now the fact that they showed us that in the second movie, that was great, and it opens a door, like you guys are talking about, to maybe communicate with Netayam in the future or things of that sort. So it'd be great because Sute did have an actual conversation with Sylwanen, but what they did point out is she will always remain like the age that she, or like her spirit form will always remain the age that she died, of course. But then I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I know I covered the comic on the channel, but I believe they said like they're not even aware that they have passed away. So that was like the little tragic moment right there with Sute. And I believe you kind of get hints of that, of course, in the Way of Water. Netayam isn't really aware that, he's in the spirit world or, things of that sort, that he's passed away. So it'd be interesting to see if we do, that does carry forward. Exactly, Anonymous. That's another thing. Like, what is their immediate flora and fauna gonna look like? What are the creatures and things of that sort? What what new plants or things of that, or the lack thereof? We get like the contrast of like all this beaming life with the water and all this, the reef underwater, just beaming with life, and will this Fire Nation, just volcanic region, just be like, with almost like no plants and nothing like that of the sort, which is why they're maybe so cut off, and that could be something that maybe makes them bitter. Like maybe, like I mentioned before, it could be something of like no other clans maybe came to their aid and they're kind of just bitter, and they'd have to actually just adapt to this desolate environment with hardly a connection to Awa, for example. Because that's why around Bridgehead City they keep it barren, because it actually does prevent Awa from, reaching and having a hold over that environment. Which is, so that's what we kind of learn about the lore of Bridgehead City. Obviously, we didn't see much of it in Avatar 2. But let's continue here. We'll continue here. Oh, actually, we have Drew about to join us, so let me bring him in. Give me 1 second. Hey, Drew. You hear me?
What's up, buddy?
What's up,
Yeah, can you hear
man?
me?
Yeah. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Not much. Sorry I'm late.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. I had just started going over this the Empire article I had mentioned to you that Jon Landau was interviewed for, where he gives a lot of details for Avatar 3. So far, we're just at the very beginning. Um, right here, he's barely teasing, uh, that the ending of Avatar 2 does set up a couple things in that third act. So he says, but they do set up things because we get more and more invested in these characters. Where does Kiri go? What is Loak up to? What decisions will Jake and Neytiri have to make? All of those things will continue to drive our story. And then he talks about the overhanging death of Netayam will hang over the family, both the parents and the siblings. So those are the little things that we have covered so far. But how you been, man? How you been this past week? Pretty good?
Yeah, doing good. Nice to see John and Jim talking about Avatar 3 already. I haven't read all of this article yet, but I did kind of read a brief outline of it, so excited to dive into it with you.
Nice, man. Nice. Getting good activity in the chat. Having good kind. I was just kind of asking them right now because I told them, as I had told you, with the volcanic region, nothing immediately in my head like pops out. Um, Kind of like with the when we heard about the water setting for Avatar 2, you can immediately picture obviously the swimming aspect. We kind of theorized maybe they live underwater, things like that. Uh, Now we have seen what that means. New sea creatures, Now we know their bodies can adapt to the different regions. But I was telling them nothing immediately pops out with the volcanic region. Because honestly, you think of volcanic region, to me in my head, you kind of think like it's barren of life. There's like nothing there. So nothing in terms of like flora and fauna, which is like the number one things we love to see and discover in Avatar. Nothing immediately pops out for me. I'm sure they have something great in store for us. Of course, they always do. But I was just telling them that if they had any thoughts of anything that immediately popped in their head.
Yeah, and I've had the same worries, just kind of in my head, because once you hear stuff like this, you start creating scenes and thoughts in your own mind of how it'll work and how it'll look. And honestly, when I heard that Avatar 2 was like one of the first things I heard about it, it was going to be filmed underwater. It was mostly underwater. And I was like, no, we just came from the forest. Like, what are these Na'vi going to be? Are they going to have gills, or, are they going to live underwater? But then, as we learn more, obviously, those worries were unfounded. And I kind of feel the same way right now. I'm like, ash, like volcanoes, like, that doesn't sound what I love about Avatar, but I'm sure, again, as we learn more and see some footage, see some teaser art, I'll be like, all right, now I'm starting to see your vision, James Cameron. So, yeah, I totally understand, because ash and lava and all that heat sounds like there wouldn't be any life there. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how that plays out.
Exactly. I mean, I was telling them it could be the reason why they're so bitter and so aggressive is because that's what they had to adapt to and live with. And maybe they actually are suffering from like a loss of connecting to AWA much. Maybe they don't really have a strong connection to AWA because of how barren a region like that could be. Like I said, we don't know. I'm sure they'll probably, their imaginations are better than ours. They'll weave something in there, but it could be. And but yeah, we were just gonna. They were theorizing about the skins, how they've heard, a lot of people reference red skin, things like that. My only thought I was telling them was immediately in my head, I still believe that the main color of Navi is blue. Is just maybe different shades depending on the environment. Like we saw with the Metkayina, it was still it was basically blue. It was just like, more of like adapted to the ocean. It was just more of like an ocean color. Maybe, I don't know what you would call that, teal or something. So I was telling him maybe with so many years of, maybe ash, since the ash is what they've referenced, falling on their bodies, maybe it's a blue, but just maybe grayed out, kind of diluted, like the color toned down a bit. That's my immediate thought. How about you? Do you think more like red, like a complete color change, or more like a variation of blue?
Kind of hard for me to guess. But no, like you said, the Metkayina specifically, we saw a lot of still blue, but much more on the slider scale towards green. And so, yeah, I would have the same feelings, not knowing anything more than you do.
Yeah.
Gray would be a good color because, I mean, it's still, it can be blue, but lean more towards the gray side of it. I don't know if we'll see straight up other colors of Na'vi. I mean, that sounds really weird. I'm not going to discount it completely, though. But, again, I think they're going to be based on blue, but that's just totally my thoughts without any real facts to back that up.
I guess the closest thing we've seen is when Jake wakes up in, after the destruction of Home Tree, when he wakes up and he gets on his Ikran about to go tame the, Taruk, he wakes up and he's all ashy and there's ash everywhere. I guess that's the closest we've ever seen. And like that, he was basically blue, but he was just really like grayed out. You know what I mean? So who knows? Maybe it's kind of like maybe they'll take that as like an inspiration right there. So, hey, maybe there you go. Maybe we've seen what they might look like right there.
And then if anybody has seen Taruk the First Flight, that was kind of one of the main issues going on there was the whole volcano issue.
Yep.
Obviously, being a circus show, they didn't change their costumes or anything like that. I mean, it was just regular not V, but still, we have seen a little bit of volcano action before, which honestly kind of helps squash some of my fears about how odd it could be. So I'm sure it'll be awesome. I'm just not feeling it in my head just yet.
Exactly. And actually, for anybody in the chat that doesn't know, and it's not covered here on the article, which we will continue reading right now, but just to put it out there, during the Critics' Choice Awards, James Cameron was interviewed like basically on the carpet, and he did confirm that in Avatar 3, we will meet not one, but two new clans and two new complete, cultures. So this Ash people, this Fire Nation, is only one of them. So we still have no inkling on what this other, this second one will be. Because he's like, we've already met the Metkayina and the Metkayina. And in Avatar 3, we're going to meet two new clans, two new complete, cultures. So that's interesting. Right now, especially even here in this article, we've only really heard of the Ash people and the fire one, the villainous one, but we don't know what this other one is. Maybe it's polar. Maybe it's, he mentioned. I don't know if this volcanic region will be part of the desert that he mentioned, but he mentioned some of the other regions we will touch on are polar, desert, a different type of forest, a boreal forest, instead of like the rainforest from the first movie. So it'll be a different type of forest. And then a mountainous region as well. So we'll see. But yeah, it's going to be two more clans for Avatar 3. But let's continue here with this article. Let's see here. Yet perhaps the biggest emerging story question lies in Kiri's ability to manipulate nature as she summons sea creatures to rescue Neytiri and her sister Tuk. I don't think going into that moment, Kiri knew she could do that, says Landau, but she did it. Going forward, how does this awkward 14-year-old girl come to terms with that? Landau won't be drawn on the mystery of who Kiri's father is, if there indeed is one, but is more forthcoming on the film's other daddy issue, Spider, wrestling with the discovery he is the son of Marine turned Avatar Miles Quaritch. Spider has never really had a family, and he's been searching for that. In Quaritch 2.0, he can't help but see a father he never knew, a kindred spirit. Oh God. When Spider saves him, it was not an easy decision. He's really torn inside, so we use the one F word we're allowed. It's also possible Quaritch's relationship with Spider will bring about a transformation in Avatar's Big Bad. What can he learn from Spider, suggests Landau? Does he start to see Pandora differently? Jake did. Okay, so
I
two big things there.
can't believe they're giving some of this away or even hints at it this early in the game.
I know, especially that second portion, but with that first point right there with Kiri, and not knowing that she was able to do that, but she kind of just just did it and realized she could. And he says, going forward, how does this awkward 14-year-old come to terms with that? And the whole father thing. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say, I don't think there's an actual father, like biological father. I think Awa has a hand in it, and it's why, that point right there, that she's able to manipulate nature. I think that's going to come from that. So yeah, basically that was just the very beginning, and we're going to see that develop even forward. And what else can she learn to do? Like, how far does that power extend? It's going to be interesting to see that. What are your thoughts on the whole Kiri situation?
Again, like it said in the article, and just like we knew from watching Avatar 2, still just a lot of mystery and intrigue around that character. I think we've just scratched the surface of what she's going to end up being. And honestly, I think even after Avatar 3, we're not going to have all the answers. Maybe we'll scratch the surface a little bit more and learn some more about her. I don't doubt that, but I still think even after Avatar 3, we're still not going to fully know all of who Kiri is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I also think it's not touched in this article, but the other big point that James Cameron has made recently in these past few days is reveal that our Jake Sully being our narrator for the first and second movie will end right there. Starting with the third movie, it will now be for the third movie, it will be Loak. And he's actually revealed that for each of the following installments, so 3, 4, 5, it's going to be a different character narrating, being the main narrator of the movie, and seeing basically the events unfold through their eyes, like their point of view. So Loak is going to be the practically the protagonist or the main focus of Avatar 3. I mean, he was already a big, I feel a big part of Avatar 2, but it's going to be even pushed even bigger. He said he's basically kind of assessing, how the movie is hit, and he sees that the biggest takeaway is that Loak, has emerged like, really popular. People are really gravitating towards the story. So he said he's going to do some minor tweaks to Avatar 3. But the narration one was already something he planned on, but he's talking about some other minor tweaks, not revealing what. He said nothing major, but just seeing that people have taken to him, there are going to be a few minor tweaks to Avatar 3 during post. So, but how do you guys feel about that? And even Drew yourself, how do you feel with our narration changing now, starting with this next movie, and it being a new character with each installment up to 5?
Pretty interesting. I know we all saw that Loak and Tsireya were probably going to eventually take the reins from Jake and Neytiri in the story.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying that completely happens in 3, but to have Loak already go ahead and take over the narration, that really kind of sets up the fact that I don't believe it's fully done just because we've reacted positively to the character. I mean, there's a deeper reason than that for sure. Um, I think the audience has reacted super positively to Kiri, and she's not going to be narrating. So I think it was only a matter of time before this happened. So it's interesting that he's going to go ahead and do that now with him. And that just
yeah,
really reinforces how big of a part to these sequels that Locke is going to be. And it also kind of gives me a little bit of pause on, how much of a backseat is Jake and maybe even Neytiri going to be taking now? Even more? Are they stepping back even farther? Having him be the narrator kind of would lead me to think so.
yeah. Um, and I mean, and for anybody that's like, that doesn't really like the idea of thinking, we didn't, it's like a backhand to Jake. He did narrate 2 movies, so if it does change, it's only one character per movie going forward. Jake did get 2, so it still shows you how important he was. And honestly, he was our entry point, so he will forever be probably the most important. You know what I mean? He was like our eyes, like his experience in that first one really was our experience learning about this whole planet and everything. So honestly, we will forever like love, Jake's story. But like you said, it's gonna come a time, especially when more years are gonna pass in the story itself, where the focus will have to shift to, the next generation. He has talked about the Godfather saga being an inspiration for this saga, which, if anybody knows the Godfather saga, it's a generational story. So, you go through the years, and yeah, it'll just be interesting to see that, because like we kind of always speculated with those leaked, you know, uh, placeholder titles. We always assumed number 4 was going to be Loak's like main movie, because the placeholder for that was the Tulkun writer, right?
Yeah,
So it's
it was.
interesting. For me, that was the interesting things to hear, that his main one is going to be the third one. It's like, oh, really? So, and then that it'll be another character for number 4. It leads me also to think that they're maybe not going to use these placeholder titles anymore. So, especially if it's another character, narrating, I don't think you would call it the Tokun writer if it's like Kiri narrating. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
but yeah, interesting. And then the second part here, when the Jon Landau gets into the whole Spider and Quaritch, issue going on here, it kind of really is hinting the movie. I kind of felt it through the movie. We kind of, felt it even before we saw the movie. And right here, he's kind of adding more fuel to that fire, at least for myself, that there will be a, I don't know if a redemption, because, technically this isn't the same Quaritch, this isn't the same person, but that maybe his allegiance will change down the road, not necessarily just in 3, but it could take up to 4 or 5, But I do feel like the clues are already being shown here that is a possibility, and I think he will take to Pandora, but at first I think it's not going to be like the good way or whatever. I think it's going to be maybe something to do with this whole new villainous clan. You know what I mean? But what do you feel about this whole spider little thing he mentioned here, Spider and Quaritch?
Well, it's going to be interesting for one because I've kind of thought about, he saves Quaritch. What's Quaritch's next move? Does he go ahead and go back to the RDA? Does he set off on his own? Maybe he's not about that life now. I don't know. I kind of feel like he goes back to the RDA and is still going to have to then maybe struggle a little bit with who he is as far as having Miles Quaritch's essentially thoughts and brain and memories, but yet kind of growing to love this child who isn't biologically his kid, but yet is kind of the only family that he has as well. And
Exactly.
so they're probably, I don't know how, but I think they're going to probably, be spending time together again. I don't know if that's Quaritch going back, or I don't know if that's Spider going back to live with humans or how that's going to come about, but clearly they're going to be spending more time together again on this movie. And I think he's just going to kind of see that what he's representing isn't really what he wants, but more of having a family with his son is probably a little more important to him than what he was sent there to do. And so
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know if he'll ever fully be like, team not V and supporting everybody, but it's pretty obvious the character's going to have a lot more gray than he did. And because we even have seen shades of that already. So I think it's just going to add an interesting dynamic to him because at some point he's probably going to have to make another decision. Do I kill Jake, Neytiri, whoever, or do I lean more on the side of my kind of son, Spider?
Exactly. And as you were talking right now, I think you were mentioning, you saw him going back to the RDA, and it's combined with what people are saying here in the chat. I think he will initially go back, especially, I don't think right away he's going to be like, okay, I got to go off on my own. So I think he will initially go back, but I think maybe there would just be a conflict of interest, or he'll just, need to go on like this journey. This guy, somebody mentioned here. Let's see, where are they? Eric says, I think he's going to explore a bit on his own. And I agree. I think that's what he might do. And I think if James Cameron is correct that we'll meet two different clans and cultures, now I'm starting to think one of them will meet like with because of the whole, the Sully family we're following with the Metkayina. Maybe there's one that they introduce, like they go visit or something. But I think the other one will actually be Quaritch will come across. I think the villainous one will actually, you know, be found by Quaritch. I think that's my theory right now, and it'll allow him to basically get more invested in Pandora itself, but not necessarily like in the good way right off the bat. So I think that he will discover this clan and maybe even try to like fit in and still just like you said have to make a decision. There's probably just so much conflict that he's still going to have in his head throughout all of three. What's his purpose? What's he to do? You got to think it's tough. Literally, you just wake up and you have the memories of this completely different person, and yet at the same time, you're a completely different species to what that was, and you're even just trying to figure out like what is my purpose. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be tough, and it's just gonna be an interesting story to see play out. But I think he's the one that comes across the Fire Nation. That's just my initial thoughts and how we can kind of visit two clans in one movie, maybe.
I think that's a good thought, and I like that idea too because even if Quaritch eventually would trend more good versus even neutral, it would kind of make sense for that to be a slow progression, and so maybe living, discovering, maybe being discovered by a clan that's not a good clan is kind of a first step in that, or maybe the second step in that process. And he kind of will develop more of a relationship with Pandora, Awa, the Navi way, even if it's not in the way of the quote unquote good guys. So I like
Yes,
that idea.
exactly.
I think that's a solid theory.
Exactly. Because he can maybe, it's not discounting that he can maybe get to that point where it's, the quote unquote good, the good way, but he could start out with this completely opposite version of like the Navi than we've ever seen, and it would be a good like ground to start on his Pandora journey. Figuring out himself. I think that would be really interesting. Obviously, whatever they present to us, I'm just gonna embrace it and leave all our theories and thoughts at the door. But just right off the bat, without knowing much, like you said, we kind of have almost nothing to go on. I still like that as an initial interesting thought. But we'll continue here with the article. And here we go. It says, expect Quaritch's employers, the RDA, led by Edie Falco's General Ardmore, to continue making Pandora a new home for humanity. Way of Water was Quaritch's vendetta, but Ardmore's or the RDA's goals have not changed. And Brandon Cowell's already iconic Oceanic Hunter, Mick Scoresby, will return. There you go, everybody. For anybody that was concerned or worried, just getting his arm torn off is not enough to keep him down. He will return. And he'll be back for revenge, Drew, okay? So Neytiri better
Hey,
watch
that
out.
really surprised me. And the very first thing I thought of is he's going to have a bionic arm for sure.
Me too. Oh my god. That's actually I thought of doing that, like posting the image of him that I got from the book and kind of just adding like a robotic arm to to his right
I
side. I probably
immediately
was.
thought of like Terminator 2, so just straight up chrome arm, not much, not much to it, just stuck right on there.
Oh man, let's get wet. Um. Anyways, he will return despite losing an arm to bark orders at minions. All right. Happily, the heart-stealing Tulkun Payakan will remain a fixture. We view Payakan as a character, not just as a creature, says Landau. We will continue to explore his relationship with Loak. But just as Cameron and Landau are bringing characters, creatures, and tech from film to film, they are also introducing new locales and clans. In part 3, we will meet the Ash People, an aggressive, volcanic race of people led by Varong, played by Game of Thrones Una Chaplin. Part 3 flips the script, presenting the Na'vi for the first time as antagonists, with the Sky People couched in a more positive light. For Landau, it goes further. Let me
So that's something
continue.
that's crazy. I mean, he basically confirmed the Minions Avatar crossover to start off with. And then no, I mean, like, how bad do these Na'vi have to be to put like the humans in a good light versus how they are? Like, that's
Yeah,
pretty wild. That's actually kind of exciting to hear because
yeah.
like
I was
these are
just
gonna be
about
some
to
bad
say that.
dudes.
That's actually it's sounding better and better, man. It's sounding like these are gonna be some vicious people, some vicious, Navi. So I mean, I hope because it'll just add an interesting, it's interesting kick, interesting twist that will, especially, in the third movie, be very welcome to just kind of, like you said, flip the script a little bit and not just, keep it on the same note that we were talking about. Like, how long can you continue with just Navi are good against the bad humans? Not maybe a few humans, the gray area that don't really support what their overall uh, cause and method are. But like we said, how many movies can we just do that over and over? So yeah, man, it's actually getting more and more exciting. And here we go. Una Chaplin, I don't know if it's Varang. When it gets
I
closer,
believe it's
we'll
wrong.
really wrong. Okay, yeah, you heard it here first from Drew. Um, yeah, she's gonna actually be the leader of this Fire Nation, and we did theorize in a previous stream that not only her but David Thules. But now we don't know because if there's going to be the second clan also introduced in the movie, he could either be part of the Fire Nation as well or part of this other one that we know nothing about. So that'll be interesting. But at least her, it's confirmed she will lead this, this evil Navi clan, if you will.
And something to keep in mind is, I mean, they ended up being wrong because Varong wasn't in Avatar 2, but I mean, since the beginning, they've said that Una Chaplin and her character are going to be, a huge part in the rest of the Avatar movies. Well, she ended up being in Avatar 2, but I'm going to assume 3, 4, and 5 for sure. And man, she's a great actress, so having her be, the leader of that particular clan, I'm excited.
Yeah, that actually, the more and more we hear, man, I'm getting I can't wait to start seeing the first initial, just some concept art. Just like by the end of this year, like give me the first concept art by Dylan Cole, a nice wide shot of this volcanic region, kind of like we got, one of the first ones for The Way of Water was that shot. I still love that concept art. It's kind of like Jake and Neytiri up on this cliff, and you kind of see the whole, the ocean, and you see the village of the Metkayina there, like way down at the bottom, all the way on the left. It's a nice wide shot, just to give us the feel of it. I can't wait for the first Dylan Cole, Fire Nation concept art. Hopefully later this year, man.
Hey, so I'm going to throw this out to the chat, but I'd also like to hear your opinion. Do we think the minions will be yellow, or are they going to be a shade of blue as well?
Oh my god! Don't bring that, don't bring that bad juju into this. We don't need no minions. No.
Hey, it said in the article minions, so
Yeah,
I
they said it. They
automatically
said it.
think of little yellow guys.
He got the rights to them, I guess. Him, his robotic arm, and all the minions will be back for Payakan and Loak. That'll be that very thrilling side story going on in Avatar 3. Um, but then let's see here. Oh yeah, and just a little interesting, little thing that they view Payakan as a character, not just a creature. We kind of got that sense in Avatar 2 as well. They really put the importance on the Tulkun themselves, and it'll be interesting to see if these other regions will have other, big sentient creatures, I guess, just similar to the Tulkun with the whole water region. Like, will there be, something akin to that? We kind of see a glimpse of at least some kind of huge creature, and who knows, maybe it could be, this to them. But in the Frontiers of Pandora game trailer, you see that huge creature that is kind of sleeping there. They come up to it and you see the eyes open. I initially thought it was like part of their homes or something until I saw the eyes open. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe there's going to be other sentient creatures as well throughout Pandora, not just the Tulkuns in the oceans.
Yeah, and just sitting here thinking a little bit more about it. I mean, they may live very close to volcanoes, but I would say they're probably not going to live insanely close. I'm sure they live in a region with them, and like I said, close. But I mean, they could still live in a forest type setting. They could still live in an ocean type setting, or it's an entirely new setting. But it wouldn't just have to be all lava rock and lava completely. If they're kind of on the edge of one of those settings, it'd still have lots of ash.
They're living in the frickin' in Mordor apparently.
Yeah, riding a lava Tulkun and flying orange Ikran.
Anyways, by Mountain Doom. But all right, let's continue here. We're very excited about Mick Scoresby coming back with that robotic arm. That's the biggest takeaway so far. And let's continue the final part of this article. Jon Landau continues, there are good humans and there are bad humans. The same thing on the Na'vi side. But oftentimes, people don't see themselves as bad. What is the root cause of how they evolve into what we perceive as bad? Maybe there are other factors there that we're not aware of. It's kind of what I have, initially theorized. It's just maybe something happened. Maybe they didn't get help in a time of need that they needed. And maybe they've just become bitter, so they don't really see themselves maybe as the bad guys. Maybe something of that sort, So it's interesting that they say even that, even though they'll be like the villainous Na'vi clan, maybe they themselves will also, have different factors that contributed to why they are the way they are. So I love that it's still going to be not just so, clear cut.
Well, the part on the previous page where James Cameron says that they're cannibals and they will eat at least one member of the Sully family, that kind of made me a little cringe, but I mean, I'm sure they can work that in there and it'll be tasteful, if not tasty.
God. Jesus Christ. Oh man, I've wanted them. Now that you mentioned that, it just immediately made me think of like Aztec, like the Aztec sacrifices and things like that, those rituals. And I mean, I've wanted, I've hoped one of the cultures would have that vibe. And you know what? This could probably be one of the cultures that could have something like that. It'd be pretty dope if you think about it. Like Mesoamerican style of cultures are just like they're all about stone and jade and things like that. It's all like rock, things of that nature. So it'd be very interesting, man. What cultures will contribute to the style of the Fire Nation here? It'd be pretty cool.
Sure, and I mean, there's got to be. I mean, it's not just going to be one thing. There's going to be multiple things that make us not like this tribe, or there's got to be something going on that they're painted in such a bad light that makes humans look good. So, I mean, there's no telling what that could be. I'm sure it's going to be multiple things.
Exactly. After a big time jump in Avatar 4, the final film will come to Earth. The series' only previous glimpse of our planet has been in deleted scenes from the first film, presenting it as a stark dystopia. There's overpopulation and a depletion of our natural resources that make life harder, confirms Landau. But we don't want to paint a bleak picture for where our world is going. The films are also about the idea that we can change course. Wherever the series goes, one larger than life figure won't be making an appearance. Thank God. Vin Diesel, long mooted to have a role in the saga, will not join the cast. Vin was a fan, reveals Landau. He came in, visited the set one day to see what we were doing, and people took that out of context. It's perhaps for the best. How many families can one man belong to?
I think it's hilarious that he just straight up cleared that up.
And I just love that that was literally the last line of this little article. Oh, man. So there you go, guys. For anybody that were excited for Vin Diesel to join, now we're all about family in Avatar, to join this family. He's going to firmly stay as a part of his family in the Fast series with Fast 10 and Fast 11. So I don't know if you were looking forward to it, Drew.
There's a little sleight of hand there too. John's a smart guy. He said he won't be making an appearance. That's because he's going to be of the Ash clan. He's going to be a Na'vi. We won't see Vin, but as soon as you hear that voice, you will know Dominic Toretto has arrived.
Or I am Groot.
There you go. He could voice Varong. You heard it here first.
Oh my God. So yeah, there you go. Debunked. Vin Diesel officially will not be part of the Avatar saga.
Vin Diesel, a cannibal, not V.
Oh man. Let's see. But this part right here, the middle section there. So after that big time jump, we will go to Earth in the final film. So there he's already teasing 5. They've already mentioned in previous interviews, spoiling the fact that for the final one, we will go to Earth. And I've kind of theorized with you. I don't know if I mentioned it in one of these podcast episodes, but I believe that basically the way this is going to end is Earth is going to regain its own Mother Nature, so to speak. We're going to regain our own, like he said right here. We don't want to paint a bleak picture for where our world is going. The films are also about the idea that we can change course. So there you go. There's a spoiler that Earth is going to be saved. Therefore, you won't need, the RDA and their whole goal of colonizing Pandora. So by the 5th movie, humans can stay on Earth and Pandora can remain, for the natives there, or any humans that choose to make Pandora their home, because now we'll be friendly with each other, which is the whole thing about the Pandora, the world of Avatar in Florida. Like we mentioned before, it's set generations after the first movie, so it could be like 60 to close to 100 years after. It's not specified, but it's going to be a point in time when humans can go and be like basically a tourist and go and help, a conservationist and help restore Pandora after all these battles throughout the years that we're going to see unfold in these movies. But I think there you go, Drew. That's the ending right there. Earth will be saved. We'll get our green back, and there you go. I think Jon Landau.
When we got to the part where it said, after a big time jump in Avatar 4, the final film will come to Earth, Honestly, I just started drinking so heavily that I passed out. Um, but
You're like, I'm
yeah,
on Earth right now.
I'm so excited to go to Earth. Like, man, what movie could I watch that would be set in Earth? Like Avatar 5, yes, Earth. Ah, sounds great. We're gonna meet the human tribes. Can't wait. That sounds fantastic. That sounds like a great way to end Avatar as a series. Going to Earth.
Oh man, W-
Yes.
we're talking
I
about
cannot wait.
the Navi clans fighting each other. You'll go to Earth, and there'll be human clans. There'll be the Marvel clan versus the Avatar clan. Oh
It would
man,
be interesting if Quaritch plays some role in, whatever happens. We're coming to Earth, so or not be coming to Earth. I have no idea. One could only assume so, but it would be interesting to see if by that time Quaritch is part of whatever they discovered to help Earth save itself.
I'll put this one up on the screen. Jaden says, "What if Kiri sacrifices herself for Earth?" And I think this is one that I had mentioned to you, Drew, like outside of these podcasts, right there, going along with what Jon Landau was saying, how Earth is going to be a big part of the final one in this, and how they're going to be able to change course. I actually think that's probably not too far fetched. That maybe Kiri will sacrifice herself for Earth, and being both of Grace and Awa, as I currently theorize, maybe her ultimate you know fate will be to basically help the planet of her, in a way, biological mother, and use the basically what she has of Awa to go to Earth and be the Awa for Earth. Like maybe like Jaden states, sacrifice herself in a way to be able to restore Mother Nature on Earth, and that'll be maybe her ultimate fate. And in a way, it'll be saving the planet of her biological mother, where she came from, and using the essence of Awa. So, what do you think of my theory right there? Because I know you love talking about Earth.
Well, I have a little bit of a theory myself, and this is all true. So in the 80s, Nintendo created an awful game called E.T. based off the movie. And they didn't sell very many copies, and so they threw them away in a landfill. And this isn't a joke. And I
I
do believe we will find that landfill in Avatar 5. Kiri will be buried there with those old cartridges. And she will die, but she will sprout new life. She will be the tree of souls here on Earth. The end.
Oh man, see that just even makes me cry. Now I know why Stephen Lang cried reading the script for Avatar 5. We can
I
all
cried when I
understand
read the end too.
because it said Avatar 5, we're going to Earth, and you just started bawling before you
I
even read the
weeped.
first.
I weeped.
Oh man! At
It's
the
going
end
to
of the day,
be
we joke,
interesting how they're going
everybody.
to pull that off. It's going to be
We're,
very interesting to see how they pull that off. Because, I mean, overall, that's what people love the most about Avatar to this point. And it has switched, I think, some from just the whole amazingness of Pandora to a little bit more character driven for the general audience. But, it's going to be interesting going to Earth, leaving Pandora behind, like how all that goes. And it may only be a small part of the movie, too. I'm sure they're not giving the whole movie away. I'm sure it'll be 3 hours long, so the Earth part may not even be all of it. But I do know someone who has read all of the scripts, including the ending of Avatar 5. Someone who works on the movies, and they said it's beautiful. I mean, that's really all I can say about it. So, and I'm going to trust their word on it because they don't say things like that lightly. So, I don't know how it's all going to come together, but it's going to be awesome, I'm sure. I mean, I joke because, yeah, I'm not like Hearing going to Earth doesn't really excite me, but somehow or another, it's going to be awesome. I'm sure.
Oh, sorry about that, man. But I agree. I'm sure that by the end, I know we've been joking about it, but for sure, I know that it'll be beautiful, and I know we're all gonna love it. And even though we're not initially excited about Earth and coming and seeing Earth and everything that has to do with Earth, because obviously we've been drawn to the franchise because of Pandora and the escapism that it offers and that it gives us. But I'm sure it's going to be a touching, fitting end, and it'll help both the humans and the Navi. Because at the end of the day, we can't just be all one sided and only want to be there for Pandora. There are two species in this story, at least right now in this point in time. Obviously, we can explore eras that I hope they do in either animated shows or novels, like the time of the first songs and things like that. But at least for this story here that we're telling, I'm sure that it's gonna be a happy ending. Like you said, he's not just gonna end it and just be bleak. So it's not like Pandora's gonna win. They beat the humans out of Earth, and then they have nothing to go back to, so humanity just goes extinct. So obviously that's not going to be the way it goes. But it's still going to be super exciting, man, to see the twists and turns along the way, and just seeing how what the journey is to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after all, Jake is from Earth. It would kind of only be fitting if at some point he does go back.
Exactly. And hopefully makes it to a late stage in this story. I'm obviously we want them to every character that's left to last all the way to the end of 5. We might lose some along the way. Maybe Jake. Maybe it's telling that he won't be a narrator in the movies going forward. Hopefully not. But it'd still be interesting to see. And he, obviously he did state he even has a far out idea of where a 6 and a 7 could, a story for 6 and 7 could potentially go. So even though, this can end in a happy way, somehow he still even has thoughts of how to continue um, the story, or maybe a struggle, maybe just internally with Pandora itself. So it'd still be interesting, and it's going to be quite a ride for sure, man. I just hope we get this full like 5-film saga at least within the next like decade or so.
Yeah, me too. And honestly, like, and this isn't throwing shade at James, but he's not a young man, so it would be interesting to see if he would still be willing or able to make even more Avatar movies if the desire, from the movie going public was still there, or if he would pass the torch at some point or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
Um,
honestly, seeing what happened with Star Wars, I would rather it quote unquote die with James. Like if he wasn't going to make him anymore, I'm fine with that.
yeah, exactly. That's the point I was just gonna touch. Well, first of all, um, it was 2 points from Eric. The first, they came up with the perfect title for Avatar 5, which was "Welcome to Earth." So I love that out there. Spoilers for anybody. And then their second point right here, which is what we have talked about before. I like the story to just end and not become a universe, not a bunch of spin-offs and shows. I wouldn't mind stuff like seeing some kind of backstory, animated shows about the past and things like that. But in terms of like you were kind of mentioning as well, the story just continuing and continuing, with more movies and movies. I kind of like the idea that it was a 5. You'll get this 5-film saga, where each of these films, I mean, we've seen the first one stood the test of time 13 years. So each of these are gonna, they set benchmarks when they come out and release, and there's so much that goes into each one of these films that just delivering the full five is just gonna be a feat unto itself. Because you'd have to maintain that level of excellence going forward. But like that, I mean, he also did talk about handing the reins off to somebody that he would have to find and train, because he says, no matter how good of a director you are out there, you aren't, automatically trained or, good enough for this or trained for this. Like, this is a whole other beast. So I don't know if this just keeps being successful, if they will go with those story treatments for 6 and 7. In a way, like I've told you before, I would like it to just end with 5 movie-wise, I would love to explore other things in maybe comics and some animated shows. No live-action shows, because I never see, at least not for like 10, 15 years, I don't see, any TV budget being able to produce, the level that we see when it comes to the Avatar movies. And even other movies that spend upwards of $200 million don't come up to the level of these Avatar movies, So keep it at like comics, animated shows, or novels that could expand maybe some backstory and stuff. But I would be content with like ending it at 5. How about you?
Yeah, I would be too. And Awesome Lion said something that I agree with and wanted to expand upon, but they said, I want a novelization of movies. They could do so much in details that the movies couldn't show without being 6 hours. And actually, we know that at one point they were set up to have novels by an artist named Stephen Gould, or Gould. I'm not sure how you say it. It's Gould. But I actually talked to him a few years ago, and he had the first novel done at that time. He had no idea when it would come out. He assumed leading up to the Avatar 2 releasing, but things have probably changed since then. I think that was even pre-DK getting on board. So he may work for a totally different outfit that can't even be published now. I don't know. So at some point we were supposed to get novels. So maybe even if they're rewritten or the story has to be changed, we'll still get them at some point. I definitely wouldn't count that out. But I would also love to see novels expand even more. I like the idea of comics, and I don't feel like the execution has been super good overall so far. Seems like a lot of the stuff that they have introduced is just kind of ignored in the movies. So that's probably my biggest complaint so far. Seeing as it's all supposed to be canon, it just seems like they kind of forget some of the stuff that happens in the comics.
Exactly. And like we've touched upon, outside of this, where like, it would be great to have like an ongoing comic series where once a month, it doesn't even, it can even be in present time, but just maybe in a completely different area of Pandora that the movies will just never touch, and completely new characters that we can, grow to love, that are just in this singular, comic story. So in that format, because the video game Frontiers of Pandora, it's gonna work in this timeline, just in like Jon Landau has said, it's gonna be completely on the Western frontier that the movies are just not gonna focus on. So it'll be canon. It's just nothing in there is gonna, interfere or disrupt whatever they're gonna do with the movies. So something like that, because I don't want the franchise as well to just die. Like, there just not be any material that comes out. I think we would just not want there to just keep being movies for the sake of being movies, like ad nauseum, like just because they're successful. So yeah, man, it'd be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But I mean, just this past week, this was a lot of stuff. It's little slivers, but I'm getting more and more excited for an Avatar 3 already. Hearing these little details about the clan. We already know the leader of the clan. and just where the story can go. Now we know a new point of view for each film. So, what do you guys think overall, people in the chat? This article here that Jon Landau just kind of gave us new infos and teases for 3 and beyond, 4 or 5. What are your thoughts? I know Brianna Brown has been mentioning, what if Kiri isn't the only one that has powers? She wants to see more Navis with powers. I don't know, just because I think Kiri's, basically birth and everything was just a very special event. I don't really think that are gonna be or were other Navis that were born that maybe haven't, like we said, we don't know, but we're theorizing we'll have some sort of essence of Awa along with Grace for her situation. I don't think there's going to be many other that were born in that way. What do you think, Drew, on that one real quick?
Yeah, I feel like she's going to be unique, and I mean, we still don't even know exactly in all the ways that she is. Obviously, she has powers. I don't think we're going to encounter anybody else like her, because that's what makes her character so special. And I think part of that is just due to the fact that James has so much respect and loves Sigourney Weaver so much. I think that's why he wanted specifically her to play Kiri.
Exactly. And just very quickly here before we kind of head towards wrapping this up for the night. Right here, Lord Adam asks, do you think there could be other aliens that could show up in Avatar movies or shows? And that's an interesting thing. Maybe the 6 and 7, movies that he might have in mind could potentially finally be opening it to exploring kind of something like that, like maybe other alien species themselves. There's a lot of moons still around Polyphemus that we haven't even touched. How many of those maybe have their own basically Navi, or human type, civilization or species on them? Who knows? Maybe that's how the Avatar franchise could expand. We don't know. So right now, I think they want to tell this singular story about the human and Navi conflict, but maybe in the future it could open the doors to, other conflicts with other species, or just exploring them. Maybe not necessarily having to be conflicts, but that's an interesting thought right there. What do you think, Drew? Like, could that be a potential avenue to explore going forward?
Sure, definitely could be. I don't think we've seen any indication yet that that will happen, but I mean, we know so little, even about Avatar 3 at this point. But a side note, it's awesome that Avatar 3 is less than 2 years away, and we can already start to be excited and get some little hints and details like this. And,
Yeah.
we don't have to be worried, because, I mean, it's already shot, they just need to polish it up. I mean, they obviously have a lot of work to do, but a lot of the work is also already done. So it's awesome that we can be confident in it arriving in a timely manner. We don't have to keep, waiting and waiting. So that'll be awesome to be able to go see another Avatar movie in hopefully just 2 more years.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, man. It'll feel more real to me, as we get into 2024 itself. But because it's crazy to think that we just went through like a 13-year gap just to finally get the second one, and just to only wait. We go through this upcoming December with no Avatar movie, but then next Christmas, you know, we Santa delivers another gift of another Avatar movie. It's kind of crazy to think that it's just basically 2 years away. Um, that's kind of nuts. I love that they did that. They shot two of them back to back, so that there wasn't this huge gap in between like this. Like you basically exploded the box office again, and now quickly you can kind of follow that up in just 2 years time, and now it's like what numbers does that do? You know what I mean? Does that go up or down? It's going to be very interesting to see. But I'm excited. It's exciting that it's just 2 years away. post production is already being they're already doing post on on this third movie. So we're gonna
And
basically. Oh, what was that?
sorry to interrupt you there, but I was just going to say, and it looks like we're probably going to hit the $2 billion mark this weekend, even.
Yes, yes. I told him that at the beginning of it. It's insane, man. It's a number that on quite honestly I didn't think this one was gonna hit. I mean, especially post pandemic. It is different times. We're getting out of that, but there really hasn't been a movie. No Way Home, I thought would have been the movie to do it, and it fell, short by just a little, less than $100 million short, but it didn't do it. But Avatar is gonna do it, man. It's already in the top six. It could finish in the top four, and already in the top six, the only six movies that have crossed 2 billion, and James Cameron is responsible for three of them. 50% of the top six movies of the only movies in history to cross 2 billion, and James Cameron had his hand in on three of those movies. It's kind of nuts. And as we keep going, how many in the Avatar saga are gonna keep crossing that? Will all of these three, four, five, and then you'll just have the majority of the movies in history that have crossed 2 billion will just be the Avatar saga. Oh man.
And something that's impressed me with the speed that we've hit 2 billion is, Russia's not even showing Avatar, and they were the seventh biggest country for the original Avatar. So
Yeah.
I think they brought in like a little bit more than 117 million, and we're getting no revenue for them for Avatar 2. So I mean, man, it's doing so well.
Yeah, it's unprecedented, man. It's exciting. A lot of people here are like, yeah, stick it to the haters. Like I've always said, we don't want to put down any other franchises, just like we didn't want them to put down ours. But obviously, it is, it is exciting, and it is good to see that the movie speaks for itself. The numbers don't lie. Basically, there you go. Anybody that did hope that we would, or that this would fail. So that's still good to see. Like Jaden just said, never doubt James Cameron. um, but very
Yeah,
interesting.
and I
Just to
would
kind of wrap things up here. What were you saying?
I would say the money that Avatar 2 ends up making, whatever that will be, is actually more impressive than what Avatar made, even though Avatar is higher, just looking at the current climate. Not just here,
Yes.
but across the world. Like you said, COVID, the things China's dealing with, Russia not being involved, just kind of the lack overall of people wanting to go to the movies now versus 13 years ago. I mean, streaming's gotten so huge since then. So in my eyes, Avatar 2 hitting 2 billion, that's even more impressive than Avatar 1, eventually reaching, I believe, 2.9 billion.
Yeah. I mean, I think in their own way, each of them is still just like special. The first one still was just like being a completely new IP. There wasn't even one previous movie. Just the fact that it did that. We've mentioned Endgame. Endgame took 11 years of build up, over 20 something movies, just to finally get to Endgame, a culmination of that, whole interconnected story, to finally reach the numbers that just the first Avatar movie did on its own, with no previous, with no like decades of comic history, no like over a decade of movies leading up to it. Just one single movie did that. That'll still be astonishing in its own right. But like you said, this one being able to even get close and cross the 2 billion in this completely different climate after post pandemic and everything, and a lot of countries like China not being able to give 100% of what they probably would have given. because of a lot of lockdowns and things. It's still very impressive.
There's a
Um,
couple of things in the chat I wanted to touch on real quick, Jerry.
yeah.
Lord Adam, I've seen him say this a couple of times. He mentioned if we thought the fire people will have slaves. I'm just kind of curious, has that been brought up somewhere? I haven't, or if that's just a random question that he had. I hadn't heard anything about slaves or slavery. I wasn't sure what that was
I
referring
haven't heard
to.
that either. I mean, he probably
And then,
that's probably just his thought, but no.
so yeah, I don't know. I'm going to say no. That's a kind of a touchy subject. I'm just going to say no, Lord Adam, but who knows? Um, Christina also said this movie made me step foot in theaters for the first time in like 2 years. Same here. I actually hadn't been to see a movie in 3 years, so
Yeah,
bravo, Avatar 2.
exactly. And obviously it proved that same situation for so many people around the world that just hadn't gone back to the theaters and who knows how long, you know. And that's why we say it's not just it's the whole package with Avatar. It's not just the story, it's not just the visuals. It's everything put together. It's the 3D and it's being on the big screen. It gives you a whole complete package of a theater experience that it's unmatched and other movies don't give you that. It really makes it worth it to spend the money now that it's even more expensive to go to the movies. You know that at least with these movies you're going to get an experience that you can't replicate at home. It's not like, and not to put down any other genres, but like a rom-com or something like that where honestly, for the most part, it would play similar just watching it at home. You know, what people say, like, I'll stream it, you know? That's not the same with Avatar. It gives you a complete, you know, theater experience that these other movies just aren't going to give you. So Top Gun Maverick delivered the same for a lot of people as well. You know, that's why those are the top two of 2022, you know? Um, they were just giving people a theater experience that they hadn't seen in a few years at least. So that's good.
And then I saw Britannia Brown ask if Avatar is making any money in China. And yeah, so for Avatar 1, it went USA, China, France. Avatar 2 is trending the exact same. It's USA number 1, China number 2, France number 3. So definitely making money in China.
Yeah, I would say if you want to put a number on it, it's gonna exceed 200 million in China, which is already over the initial estimates because of a lot of the lockdowns and stuff initially. They were thinking that the numbers there weren't even gonna get that high, but yeah, it's gonna be finished well over like 200 million plus over there in China. So that's a good amount of money right there.
And one other thing I wanted to bring up with the box office is, I mentioned USA, China, France. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Same for Avatar 1, same for Avatar 2. But for Avatar 1, we had Japan coming in at 4. And Japan is like completely fallen off. They're only, last I saw, they were only at like 27 million for Avatar 2. So I actually did a little research into that to see like what was going on. And really what it boils down to is they've just improved the quality of movies they're making there, and they've kind of switched to watching animated movies that are domestic to Japan. And so the
Yeah,
taste in movies there have just changed, and they're not even watching like more traditional Disney movies either, which is kind of a big deal because they're the third largest movie market in the world. And so with no Russia and no very little Japan, like this movie's still soaring. So I think that's a real testament to how well it's actually resonating with people.
exactly. And it's the same even in uh similar in like China, for example. It's going to report huge numbers, but also they're more about pushing kind of like local domestic movies. Those get really big just in China because most of them don't even play outside of China, and they still reach like really good numbers. If you really like, we don't hear about them because they don't really release over here in the U.S. but they themselves make some of their movies reach like 7, 8, $900 million, box office wise, with just just there internally in China. So, and I know they have a couple big Chinese releases coming up. So the Avatar box office there is most likely going to drop a lot, um, because I know they do have some big local movies that are going to come out. Even though they did give it Avatar an extension, which usually I believe they only give outside movies 30 days. They did give it an extension, I believe, of I think it was like 2 weeks, but they do have a couple big local movies coming out. So we'll get some money trickled in, but not as much because they're going to shift to just watching those.
So really, we're hitting 2 billion at a perfect time if you wanted to see Avatar 2 hit 2 billion.
Exactly. But yeah, guys, that'll kind of wrap us up for today on this episode. I hope everybody had fun. I mean, I surely had fun. Uh, Drew joined us and just going over this article. A lot of interesting, tidbits just from this little article right here. So hopefully you guys learned something here, and we'll see. Maybe by the time we have our next one next Friday, there'll be some more news we can talk about or some other little updates. If not, we'll start diving into those books, man. We got the art book and the visual dictionary. We'll pull up that page on Mick Scoresby. You want to know his bio and all his his info. We'll get that. We'll get that to you. But I know just at the very end, Brianna Brown was kind of questioning, like, what do we kind of watch now? What do we shift to next? She's saying here she's gonna watch some animes, maybe Dr. Stone. Yeah, I mean, me and Drew, like, we love Avatar, but we also, and I'm sure a lot of you guys in the chat as well, have many different other interests. So especially now in this day and age, with a lot of things just coming to, we always have something, whether it's in streaming or at the movies. We're constantly flooded with so many awesome things. I mean, I there'd just be so many things that I could recommend for people to watch. There's like a plethora of things you guys can go and watch in the meantime, while still, of course, being fans of Avatar and keeping up, we can still enjoy other things in the meantime. We don't just have to kind of hold our breath till the next movie comes out. I don't know if you guys ever want, Drew and I to also touch on other subjects, like other, shows or movies that we are interested in as well, along with Avatar. Kind of let us know, because we have so many other interests that we could also talk about. So you guys let us know. You guys control the conversation. Really quick in the chat, drop what are some things that you guys are currently watching or are gonna watch, like you heard about it and you're excited to go and watch. I see somebody brought up, like, Christina is rewatching Umbrella Academy. That's a good one. Dr. Stone, like Brianna Brown, and some other animes. Let's see. Watching more evidence that Stu is going to return for Scream 6. Afton Child, how do you just guess what I was researching today? Like, did you guys see that trailer for Scream 6? I love the Scream movies. And yes, I too believe that Stu is going to return. I mean, come on, you got that weathered mask. It has to be one of the original masks. But Drew, what do you got going on right now? Like, what's your current thing that you're either watching or you're excited to, like, tune into next?
Well, I mean, Spider's going to be in Scream 6, so clearly all of my focus has gone to Scream 6. But no, shout out Jack Champion. He is going to be in Scream 6. I didn't even know there were 5 Screams, so that's news to me. I definitely watched the first 2, maybe 3, but I only remember the first one, so.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Drew, we got to fix that, man. I mean, Some of those in the middle there are a little, not the best. One is amazing. And honestly, this recent number 5 just got me right back into the franchise. It was incredible. And just a year later, we got Scream 6 coming out in a few months. Like you said, it's got our boy Jack Champion in there. It's got Spider. You guys got to support, man. But I'm hoping. Who knows? He only appeared in one shot in the trailer. He could be the second killer. What if Spider is a killer, man? Like his daddy. But yeah, the Jaden's dropping The Last of Us. Yes, incredible first episode. My favorite game, especially story of a video game of all time. So I already know the story, backwards to front, whatever. But yes, the first episode of The Last of Us was amazing. I can't wait till, a couple days, the second episode. The dropping Warhammer 40K, Attack on Titan final. So, dang, you guys are what is The Last of Us? Oh, Breonna Brown. You gotta, if you have HBO Max, just nobody even spoil anything. I would just say it's like a flavor of zombies, but it's not really zombies. Literally at the core of it is the story of basically this man and man and his daughter, even though it's not his daughter, like a proxy daughter. It's their journey, but obviously around them you have this, world that has gone through heck. And it's very timely. They went through this, it's post-apocalyptic and everything. It's very timely. But it is amazing. It is R-rated though. Yeah, she's asking if it's R-rated. But yeah, man. If you guys would ever like us to do another some other episodes where maybe we're not talking about Avatar specifically. We're kind of just chatting about other stuff. Just let us know and we can we'll do that too. What do you think, Drew? Those would be kind of fun as well, or?
I'm still over here drinking heavily, knowing that we're going back to Earth in Avatar 5. So
welcome to Earth.
In between blacking out, trying to keep up with the comments here. It's kind of interesting, though, just seeing what all everybody's into.
Yeah, we kind of just
we're all
opened
Avatar
the floodgates,
fans,
man.
but yeah, so many different directions for everybody. It's pretty cool. I don't watch a lot of stuff. I'm kind of boring like that. My tastes have kind of changed. I'll watch an action-filled movie, but for the most part, I don't watch a whole lot of movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. We just asked, and that's so many awesome suggestions there, and things that I'm either currently watching, Last of Us, super excited for Scream. I'm actually gonna do another binge of the Scream movies. Yeah, this year, 2023, we don't get an Avatar movie, but there's so much if you're into a lot of different franchises, a lot of different genres. Literally, I love all kinds of different genres and I love all the different franchises. So for me, it's still going to be a super busy year. Maybe not just specifically Avatar, but yeah, I'm excited. There'll be plenty for us to hold us over until we get, into 2024 and Avatar 3. So, but yeah.
I think there's supposed to be a Red Sonja movie out at some point this year. So that's probably be the next movie that I actually go and watch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard of that one in production. Hopefully, like you said, I haven't really researched the release date, but I think you're right. I think it is later this year. And there's a lot of stuff because my mind has only been on Avatar for so many months that now just catching up with a lot of the rest. I'm like, wow, this is coming out this year. Wow, this, it's just crazy. I mean, Mandalorian season 3 in March. Get out of here!
Yes.
Who doesn't love Baby Yoda?
Excited for that.
Come on, guys!
Excited for that.
Come on, we gotta do a Mando after show on this, dude. But anyways, we're getting too carried away.
Well, what's funny is I just read the other day, Red Sonja, they just started filming, I don't know, later part of last year, and then it's supposed to be out in 2023. But in my Avatar mind, I think, oh yeah, right, maybe in 5 years, because other franchises actually get stuff out. They start filming one year and you get a movie the next year. Avatar, not so much.
Let's see here. Juan says, "Yo, y'all should watch the new Pinocchio film by Guillermo del Toro." Oh, loved it. Like you said, heartfelt. Obviously, a lot darker than Disney's take on it, but it was incredible. And I love stop motion animation because it's you feel how handcrafted it is. You know what I mean? It's like so much work that went into it. Mandalorian is coming back. I didn't even know that. Check out the trailer just dropped a few days ago. For the newest trailer, but yeah, it's coming back in March, and my favorite Star Wars content by far since Disney has taken over. I love The Mandalorian. It's incredible.
And this weekend, I can tell you what I'll be watching, and that's football all weekend. NFL playoffs, baby.
Oh man. Mandalorian this May. No, it's actually in March, and which is it's kind of funny because the voice of the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, is Pedro Pascal, the actor, and it's funny because he's right now leading The Last of Us, where it's kind of like a similar role in Mandalorian. It's him and his basically like proxy son, Baby Yoda, and in The Last of Us, more R-rated, him and another journey with another young character. And the shows are gonna right now The Last of Us is running, and it's gonna intersect with the beginning of Mandalorian. So hey, good beginning of 2023 for Pedro Pascal. Shout outs to him. But yeah, man, anything else you'd like to finish up with here before we head out?
I liked Pedro Pascal in Game of Thrones.
No,
he's good in Mandalorian too, for sure. I love that show.
Yeah, man. Brianna Brown, you got homework. You got to check out Mandalorian on Disney Plus. It's a Star Wars series, but trust us, like that's a great entry point. You don't even have to have liked or watched anything else Star Wars. It's a great. So many people have just jumped on board and only watched Mandalorian, and that's all you need. It has 2 seasons so far, 8 episodes each, so like 16 episodes. They're not even an hour long, so just kind of catch up. It's an amazing series. The green baby.
It is.
Animal
it's
elf.
My favorite Star Wars material out there. The green baby animal elf. Yes, exactly.
I've never seen it described like that.
Him better.
Yeah.
I like it.
Exactly. Oh man. But yeah, thank you all for joining us. Honestly, it's been a blast today. A lot of Avatar news and like this, finishing up, kind of seeing what else you guys are into has been pretty great. Yes, Eric, Dead Space remake, it's back. But anyways, we got to end it. Until next time, like I said, leave us, either leave it a comment here or a comment on the video itself afterwards. Let us know if you would like us to, cover, talk about other subjects, other franchises in the meantime, along with Avatar. I mean, I think some of those would be pretty fun. Kind of like, separate little podcast episodes. So, yeah, thank you all for joining us. And Drew, thank you for showing up, man. And yeah, it's been a blast. And until we see you guys again, see you later.
Yeah, see you guys. Live long and prosper.